Hello, 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 and welcome. Happy. Oh, well, let's see. What is today? It is Sunday. I'm super excited to be here with each and every one of you. Happy Sunday to all of you. This has been an amazing week. Lots going on energetically. But before we go into all that, just want to welcome you to today's show. If you're not sure if you're in the right place, this is Joanne's Healing Within. I'm your host, Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your certified holistic personal trainer, intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, and the creator of the Chakra Balance Numerology Cosmic Energy Forecast deck. Also the founder of Holistic Fitness, which is located right here in New York, Queens, a mom and a wife. And we're still in 2023, obviously just about, what are we on? The second month of the year, almost finished with the second month of the year. Anyway, go ahead and share, like, and comment on today's show, as I always love to hear what you have to say. Love your comments. Let me know what drives you here each and every week to watch the show. So if you missed the show that took place 2 weeks ago, episode from 2 weeks ago on February 5th, you can go back and watch that on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, or even Twitch TV. And of course, we are here on YouTube, Twitter, and of course, Facebook. So I want to give a shout out to all of my amazing partners that make this show run as we do. We have a new time, and we also have a semi-new dates that we're here. I am now here on the first and third Sunday of the month, and at 3:33 p.m. Eastern Time. I figured since I do numbers and I love numbers, why have the show at a normal time? I thought 3:33 was just a really amazing, magical time to show up and share insight with you. So with all that being said, let me just share about my partners. And there is a flyer where we have Joe Monkman, who is our shamanic healing practitioner and wellness advocate. CJ Ives Lopez, she is the host and the publisher of the Author Sports podcast and magazine. Kitty Foss and Amy Martin, both the hosts of Intuition of the Soul. Deborah Beatty, which is our badass color mystic. And last but definitely not least, which is actually our guest for today, Tammy Moses, which is our founder and chief encouragement officer and the founder of the Hoarding Solution. Super excited for all of them to support and partner up with me on the show. So now that we got all the real business out of the way, what I would love to do is just talk to you a little bit about the energy that's going on. Considering, as I said earlier, there's been a lot going on. And we are literally hours, and less than a day away from some more energy shifts going on as we speak, where the sun itself, which is currently in Aquarius, at least for a few more hours, it will be moving, entering into Pisces. Now, those of you who happen to be Aquarius, and we still have that little less time, you're on the cusp for that matter, happy birthday. And those of you who are going to be celebrating Pisces' birthday, happy birthday. Pisces is a water energy, so it's an emotional sign. Pisces carries the energy of all 12 zodiac signs. They're intuitive, they're psychic, they have the ability to be the ascended master, and they also have the ability to connect with their dreams during the day and nighttime, which gives them the opportunity to share insight with each and every one of you. And we also have this amazing new moon that's taking place as well in Pisces energy. New moons are all about new opportunities, new ways of doing things. The new moon actually takes place at 2:06 a.m. on the 20th, which is just a few hours away. And then, in addition to the sun entering Pisces, we also have Venus that's going to be leaving Pisces and entering Aries. Aries is our fire sign, action, and it's all about self-expression, how we want to be seen, and how we express ourselves. And that takes place also the same day as the sun enters Pisces, except it takes place at 2:56 a.m. Eastern Time. Quite interesting on how both planets are shifting within a little less than 60 minutes of each other. I like to believe anytime we have any type of planetary shifting taking place, nevertheless on the same day, but within the same week, is extremely powerful, but then it could be also overwhelming, because that also means that energy is flowing through our system. And depending on where you have, let's say, Venus on your chart, Aries, or even Aries is associated with the first house, where that's sitting in your chart, the sun's energy, Pisces, and also the 12th house energy, as mentioned. So where you have those particular energies, we'll call them, will give you your story to what's going to be taking place for you as these two planets transit into their next zodiac sign within a few hours from today. And when we think about this, there's also going to be a lot of other planets shifting, transitioning into other signs in the course of March. But we'll talk about that later at a different episode. For today, the only thing I want you to focus on is the Venus Aries energy. Venus is about love, relationship, and money. And because it's moving into Aries, it's really about you. The love you have for yourself, how you feel about money, how you spend money, how you invest money, your priorities with money. And then because of that sun's energy in Pisces, it's going to help you see all of that in a much higher sense, more like higher wisdom, shall we say, as opposed to looking at everything in the 3D, the logical aspects. So do not be surprised if during this transit period where the sun's in Pisces, Venus in Aries, you start to shift your mindset about your relationship with money, especially and specifically depending on where it is in your house. That house is on your chart. To learn more about that, you're welcome to reach out to me. You can send me an email, and that email is healingwithin76@gmail.com. With that being said, I'm going to pull, before we take, a card and see what's in store for you. What one chakra can you work on today to clear the energy so you could be more aligned with the sun being in Pisces and also Venus being in Aries? What does that mean for you? What chakra can you work on? Let's see. Our card is in reverse. And when we have a card in reverse, it just reminds us that we may need to spend a little time on the higher heart chakra, which is the pink energy. But we also want to pay attention to this message because we might have a little bit of resistance in regards to referring to money in a different way than what we're used to. The affirmation is balance. So with this energy, the sun in Pisces and Venus in Aries, perhaps it's going to help us bring balance into our relationships with money and other people and learn to love the whole energy of money. The number 76 works out to be 13, which is 4. This is about your foundation with money, your foundation to what you utilize money for, so you can build that balance with your money, having that give and take, having that spend and save, having that whole process of that. It's really important based on the law of money is to remember that money is really meant to be spent. Money is meant to be in flow. So if you are saving money for that rainy day, focus on living in the now and allow that money to flow to bring more balance into your energy. Again, that pink energy is about the high heart. So find that space of feeling more compassionate with yourself and allow yourself to feel worthy. This is that Aries energy, feeling worthy to be able to spend and splurge for yourself, on yourself, and step into that ability to seeing yourself in that space of feeling deserving. So I'm going to leave you on that with that for now. And I'm going to come back to that after we take this commercial break, and I'll be right back.
Are you ready for solutions and connections? If so, I can help. Hi, I'm Tammy Moses, and I help the peripheral people resolve hoarding issues in a holistic way. I would love to connect with you and learn more about how I can help in your unique situation. Please send me an email to thehoardingsolution@gmail.com. I look forward to connecting with you.
Hello and welcome back. Or for those of you who are just tuning in, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you did miss the very beginning of the show, please go back later and watch because I shared some insight with you. I will share a little bit of what I shared earlier right now, but you can go back and watch later on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, or Twitch TV. What I did share, would like to share some more on, is our card for the day, except the card's in reverse. A reverse card means that we want to work on that chakra and we want to pay attention to the message. Now, of course, the message that I'm going to deliver now may not sound the same as what I delivered in the intro, only because it's all in tuned and channeled through. But the main message here is when we think about the energy we have going on right now, where the sun is entering into Pisces and Venus is entering into Aries, a fire sign and a water sign, it really has a beautiful conjunction. They work very well together. They bring a lot of balance into our story. That Aries energy is all about self. Let's talk about that number very quickly. 7 and 6, which is 13, which is 4. It's about your foundation. It's about your home. When we speak of home, we speak of your body, but we also speak of your shelter and your workplace. 4 in astrology is associated with Cancer. So that itself is another water sign when we think about it. So this could very well be an emotional period, emotional time for many of us trying to bring things into balance. And I do believe that this card is going to really tie right into today's conversation that I will be having with my amazing guest, Tammy Moses. Did I say that right or wrong? Last name?
It's correct, Moses.
Ah, yay! Yay,
Yay!
yay, yay. Yes, yes, yes. So Tammy, introduce yourself because I know we're always better at introducing ourselves than somebody else doing it for us. So tell us a little bit about you, what you do, your title, all the greatness about who you are.
Thanks so much for having me today.
My pleasure.
My name is Tammy Moses, and I started with a company called Homes Are for Living, which is still existing, but I'm also now the Hoarding Solution. And I have found that it's really important to look at our homes and our balance, as you mentioned, and figuring out how to juggle those things. And I started talking about this issue because I see a lot of people struggling with overwhelm when it comes to their space and all the things they're trying to do in their life. And I was thinking about how important it is to kind of normalize the fact that most of us don't live in a magazine. We have lives. And I call myself a chief encouragement officer because I think a lot of times that's what we need. We need some form of encouragement to make a shift, to make a change, to figure out where we're headed. And I have found that chaos can be very triggering for people. It can be very anxiety producing. And even just a couple days ago, I found myself like stress cleaning. Like that was my response to the situation. Like, ooh, I need to clean this. It has nothing to do with what was going on, but it's about the control. So I could exert control over that particular piece of my space. And I think more people, as we find our voice to talk about things that have impacted us, and we talk about it more, in the beginning, it's very scary. But as you begin to say your story more, say your experiences, it gives room for other people to share theirs. And I have often said I never thought I'd talk about hoarding publicly, which is true. But now that I have started on that journey and have been on it for several years, I see a common theme of overwhelm. For even if someone has a stack of mail or a load of laundry, that can be overwhelming if you've got a lot of other things going on as well. So I I feel that my role is to shed a light somewhat on some of these issues that we don't always want to talk about.
I love the fact that you use the word stress cleaning, because I never thought of it that way. I never thought of that people do stress clean when they get overwhelmed, when they have too much going on. And and a lot of that could be related to the fact that if they have too much around them, that can create that overwhelmness, excuse me, that overwhelmness as well, that of course can create stress in one's life. So stress cleaning, yes, I love that. I love that. I love that term.
Well, I'm amazed by how many people actually, maybe not publicly, but privately, will say, "Hey, I cleaned my closet today because I was stressed out about XYZ issue." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's why my bathroom is sparkling right now because I just was like, oh, that's kind of yuck. I haven't cleaned behind that faucet in a while." And so, but I was like hyper focused on that situation for 10 minutes. And um, it just shows me that a lot of us have a response to stressful things that aren't related to whatever's going on.
Exactly.
And
And go ahead.
I don't believe it's necessarily procrastination. I think it's, for some people, that's the process. That's our process to get to, okay, I feel like I was able to control that for a few minutes. Now I can look back at this other thing and go, okay, maybe I don't have control, but I can look at it with in a clearer frame of mind because I took a few minutes to do something to distract myself. And if you have a lot of stuff in your space, I think you stagnate. It's a blocked, I know we're blocked energy, and I really feel that it does block your flow. It blocks your creativity, and there's just aspects to that that are very difficult if you have a hard time with chaos or clutter.
Yes. And I think too, when we think, as you were saying, in reference to someone that is cleaning because they're stressed, but they're not necessarily focused on what it is they're stressed about. I think it's a great way to go about that. It's similar to that whole process on when someone's having a conversation with somebody and the conversation gets heated, rather than continuing the conversation, to either say to that person, look, we need to take a pause here so we can both step back and give ourselves a moment just to reflect on what actually took place, as opposed to having a conversation where both parties might be emotionally overwhelmed and things might be said that may not necessarily need to be said. So I think that stress cleaning is a great outlet in reference to when someone is overwhelmed by something. Hey, why not go and clean something that probably needs to be cleaned anyway? So you're actually doing, in my point of view, you're actually doing two great things. You're giving yourself time to sort of take a breath on whatever it is that stressed you, and you're also cleaning something or sort of getting some clutter out of the way. Now, I also or should I say not so liked, your title about being the encourager, because I think that's really important, where we all need a cheerleader, a team of cheerleaders in all the different things that we do, someone to either root us on to do something, or someone to motivate us or congratulate us when we have done something. And I think that's important for us to have as well, especially for somebody that may struggle with putting things away. And it's so funny because as I sit, I'm looking at my railing. Now, thank goodness you cannot see it. Because I have literally a pile of clothes that I did laundry over the weekend, over the week, and I usually hang my laundry to dry. I don't throw it in the dryer. And this morning I was like, oh, I need to get all of that out of there. And I think I got distracted and I just threw it over the railing and did something else. And I'm just looking at it now. I'm like, oh, that's where that went. It's over the railing. So guess what I'll be doing when the show's over today? Putting some clothes away.
And it's interesting to me, the laundry situation, because it, you can't get away from it. Like, you have to do it if you want clean clothes and don't want to just buy new clothes or new to you clothes. And I think it's this constant battle we have because, like, I have certain clothes that I would not put in the dryer, right? So I don't really want someone else to do my laundry because they don't understand my laundry rules. So,
Yes.
but it's kind of leading me to say that that's why I think we struggle sometimes, or at least I do, because we want it done a certain way, but then we want help to do it. And then we get frustrated because someone didn't do it our way. And
It would literally bother my father to the point where he'd come in and ask me, when are you going to put that laundry away? And I'm like, why does it bother you? It's not on your bed, it's on mine. and that was just his thing. In his mind, it's like, well, your laundry's folded. It should go into the drawer. And I'm like, well, I'm going to like pull the laundry off as I need to wear it because that's just what I did. But it really is, as you said, depending on who's living in the same household, some people may have where it may bother them that the laundry, in my case, with my laundry hanging over the rail of my house, if there was somebody living here, that might bother them. And that I would definitely have to be considerate to get it out of the way so it doesn't bother somebody else. So I just love how you bring that up. And I think it's so perfectly aligned. This topic itself is so perfectly aligned with Venus moving into Aries, because Venus is about the relationship we have with ourselves and our material possessions, such as our laundry. It's also the relationship we have with others, but the whole concept of how do we feel? Do we feel worthy enough to want to put things away so things can be clean? How do we value what we have so we can appreciate them as they are away, so we can really appreciate our space? So a perfect topic for the energy we are moving into.
I know that, we have talked before around clearing your space and how, like, the corner of the room, if that's blocked, that blocks a lot of your energy, a lot of your flow in there. And I have found that that's very true. And even if I take all that stuff out of the corner and dust it and whatever and put it back, or maybe I don't put everything back because maybe it had too much in it, because I have a corner over here that has that issue, where it's just shifts the energy. It shifts how you're thinking about it. And it also helps you see your space differently, because I think a lot of times we want to run out and buy a new organizing whatever, basket, box, drawer, instead of pausing and saying, okay, I'm going to clear out this corner and kind of rethink how I want to use it, maybe, or this room. And then could you put a different desk in there? Could you move a shelf from that room to this room? Like, is there something you already have that you can use in this space that you have basically rediscovered by moving stuff out of the way?
Exactly.
And so it's cost saving, but it's also like repurposing without having to do a whole lot of work. You don't have to pick a new color. You don't have to shop. You don't have to drag it up 3 flights of stairs. You can just kind of reconfigure your space. And in my previous house where I lived, I found that very helpful, particularly when we were in basically lockdown for so long, that I was like, I don't feel very creative sitting at my desk. I think I need a workspace in my living room. And so then I was able to reconfigure things and say I'm going to write here today because I just don't feel creative in that other space, or
Hmm.
I want to see the mountain, or I want to look at my backyard, or I want my dog to sit by me while I write. And so I think you can look at ways to reconfigure your space. And when you do that, I just think you can breathe better. It shifts the energy, it shifts how you're considering whatever you're doing in your day. And I think that's very valuable, to not just run out and buy new stuff or different stuff because you're feeling overwhelmed with too much clutter. And a lot of times it isn't about rearranging, sometimes it's about reducing. And you can kind of pair that though, like, hey, I really don't like how this looks, and I really don't want to use this shelf anywhere else. Can I give it to somebody else? Could I sell it? Whatever. And I think it's the spring to me is kind of like a time to reevaluate what is happening in your space and in your life. And I know a lot of times we do that at the beginning of the year, but usually I'm still kind of stuck at the previous year at that time. And so it takes me a little while to go, oh, that's right. It's spring. It's new. It's a new beginning of things. And so I think that when you start looking at your space and how is it impacting you, if you start becoming aware of that, then you can make changes that might make you happier, might give you more energy, and it could potentially reduce friction in your household, which kind of leads me to say that if you are sharing a space with someone, whoever that is, um, if you can agree to keep some of those main areas clear, like the kitchen, the bathroom, the living, dining, and those are free areas for people to be and work and just live. And maybe if you have a room that's your own, like that has a door, who cares? Like, as long as there's no infestation or smell or whatever, then who cares if you have too much stuff on your bed, kind of thing. And
Exactly.
um, personally, I can't stand having stuff on my bed to sleep. But I know partially it's because I would wake up and be annoyed that my new clean laundry was now on the floor because I would have knocked it there. Um, but other people that, that doesn't really bother them, or they're not a restless sleeper or whatever. Um, but I was thinking about my cat, Sylvester, a couple minutes ago, when I've cleaned the floor and I've pulled up all the rugs and all that stuff. Even the cat, like, lays on the floor and just stretches out and does a big old show of, hey, the floor is mine and there's nothing on it. And so I think it even impacts our pets and how they are using their space. And yet I have a spoiled cat, so but I just noticed the change in his behavior when there is just a free space that isn't even inhibited by a carpet.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's similar to when you spoke earlier about when someone decides to tackle a corner. The corners, based on feng shui, are the lungs to the house. So
mhm.
when our corners are cluttered, it does affect our own lungs on how we breathe. So when we do start to pull things away from the corners, even if we're just pulling it away just to clean it and shove it back in again, it literally gives the home a chance to breathe, and also gives us a chance to breathe as well. So it is definitely, it brings more balance into it. And then it also helps the individual to decide, like you said, they're pulling things out. It's like, okay, well, do I really need to put all this back there? I mean, I haven't used it in either weeks, months, or maybe even years. Maybe I don't need it anymore. So it gives them an opportunity to start to declutter it. Unless, of course, they're holding on to it for whatever the reasons why they might be holding on to it. Now, if you can, and I know you can because this is what you do, could you give us a general description or a meaning to why somebody, and it could very well be different for everybody, so if you can just narrow down why somebody would fall in the category of hoarding, holding on to things, and not wanting to get rid of anything?
A lot of people that I have worked with or talked with over the years often talk about some level of trauma that's happened in their life. And sometimes it's when they're very young, sometimes it's when they're a little older, and some common traumatic events that happen. Um, Sometimes people have spent time in foster care. Sometimes they spend a significant amount of time there, and you don't necessarily feel very valuable or worthy in those situations. And you often have felt deprived, and you maybe didn't have a whole lot during your childhood. And later, when you're able to have it, you just pull so much to you to basically protect yourself and make sure you feel like you have enough. Other times, it's someone lost a pet or they went through a divorce. Sometimes you will see people who live normally until they retire, and now they have much more time on their hands and they're able to collect and acquire more. But also, I think they're often people are trying to fill that gap, and they're trying to make up for the relationships that they missed out on or didn't have or were somehow ended. And people start to fill the gap with stuff. Um, there are other times when some sort of traumatic brain injury or dementia or something happens where someone starts to no longer be able to maintain their space, but they also don't recognize what they're doing. And that's when a lot of the health and safety issues come up. If you have mobility issues, if you were okay maintaining your space, but now all of a sudden you're dealing with a long-term health crisis, whether it's cancer or dialysis or something that causes you to no longer physically be able to manage some of these things, then it can tip into hoarding quite easily. And there's a difference between just I have too much stuff versus I have too much stuff and I have multiple pets, or I have unsafe, like there's a goat path in my kitchen. Like I can't cook on my countertop anymore because there's no room, and I can't seem to throw out my takeout containers or my empty cans. And there is a disconnect between, hey, I really want to use this space, and hey, I really can't because of all the stuff, but I also don't feel like I can make the effort to clear it. And that's where you can have, there's a difference between I have a lot of stuff and then I have a lot of trash and squalor and things that make it smell and things that will attract pests. And that's where, to me, it really spills into, hey, we've got some mental health things happening here that aren't being addressed. And in general, I see people struggling with anxiety, depression, self-worth. Hey, I'm not worthy of good things or a nice space. And that's where I see it really become an issue with hoarding, where you can't maintain it. Physically, you're not able to. Mentally, you're not able to. And it just becomes a real challenge to actually manage your space. And a lot of times people really struggle with managing all of that. And it just becomes a real problem in your life when you simply can't manage what you have going on. And it's very heartbreaking to see someone fall into this. And even if you offer them solutions that are, it might be challenging for them to hear it, but it doesn't mean that the solutions are difficult.
Yes.
And it's really hard. Like if you see a parent who's struggling and you've offered every opportunity and every resource and every option, and they still say, no, I'm going to live here in this place with holes in the floor and no running water. And you're just like, I don't understand how someone could make that choice. Yet, if you're an adult, you can make that choice.
Exactly. Exactly. So what we're going to do, Tammy, is we're going to shoot for a commercial break in a second after you share how people can reach you. And then when we come back, perhaps you can share some tips to help those who have family members who might have experience with hoarding, what words we can use, what words we shouldn't use, because I know that conversations do play a huge role to if hypothetically I were to walk into anyone's house and they had a lot of stuff there, if I called it garbage or junk, that might be offensive for them. So I would like to touch on that if you have some tips when we get back. So let our audience know how they can reach you for questions or even to have you work with them.
So my website is thehoardingsolution.com, and I can be reached there. I have a blog. I also have a podcast that links there. And I have a Facebook group called the Hoarding Solution Community, and it's a great place for people to connect and kind of feel like they aren't alone. And it is designed for family members and professionals. Folks that actually have hoarding challenges are welcome as well. I will say that I don't monitor it as much for trigger issues because I think that we need to be addressing it directly. And I have some tips around that as well.
Okay. So when we get back from our commercial break, she's going to share some of that with us. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm CJ. The Author's Porch is a community where you find good books and good people. We collaborate with services that deliver quality to authors and publish a magazine for authors by authors. Come by, let us feature you or review your book. Coffee is always on, and no matter what time you arrive or where you come from, the porch light is always on.
Hey, this is Joe Monkman, and I am a personal development trainer. And that means that I help people step into their leadership roles, take their place as a visionary, really understand their own mastery in the world so that they can really find their place at the buffet of life. And if you want to know more, you can find me on my Facebook page at Joe Monkman and joemonkman@gmail.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kitty Foss.
And I'm Amy J.
And we're Intuition of the Soul. We are a Facebook and YouTube group that has created a sacred spiritual place to look at your spiritual practices.
And there's too much to tell you about what we do, but let me tell you, we have weekly activities, we have monthly activities, and you are not going to want to miss our spiritual practitioner series. So join us on Intuition of the Soul.
Aloha.
Hello and welcome back. For those of you who are just joining, you're definitely going to have to come back later and watch this from the beginning because we are definitely sharing, or should I say my amazing guest is sharing about creating space for growth and the importance of moving things around in your home. So this way here, you allow the energy to flow, but that's not the basics of today's conversation. It really is about getting one to be willing to let go of things so they can just grow spiritually and also just have a healthier space that they live in or work in, whether it's your home, your workspace, or even your car, as Tammy mentioned earlier today. So Tammy, I know you have some amazing tips to share with us in regards to what would be the best way to approach a family member or friend who may have signs of having a hoarding issue, challenge, whatever the right term for it would be. So let's go there, start there.
Well, I think you have to really look at where you're at personally and what your relationship is with that person. Is it a family member? Is it a friend? How established is your trust with that person? And I think you do have to be cognizant of the fact that people can live how they want, even if you don't agree. One way to start that conversation is around safety issues, and it could be a discussion about trip hazards. It could be a discussion around fire hazard, like if someone's using extension cords through their stuff to use a space heater, which is common. You could share your concerns about the fire hazard of that. You could mention that it's perhaps not as comfortable to visit as it could be. Some people are more inclined to hear that if you're not a family member. If you are concerned about, say, an upcoming surgery or something like a medical issue like that, it can be a good opportunity to say, I'm concerned about where you're going to go after you have knee surgery, or where will you sleep because you can't get up the stairs. And if we cleared the couch, then maybe you could rest there, And so having a starting point like that can be helpful, but it also can be, as you mentioned, like watching what you say. And if you walk into someone's space and say, hey, today we're here to throw out all your junk, you're probably not going to get a favorable response because of the way you're approaching it and saying it. And you may be better off asking, what are your plans for these items? Are they going to someone else? Are you donating them? And being mindful of the words they use, because sometimes that person will use a word that they'll call it their stuff or their treasures or their collectibles. And even if you're looking at it going, it's not the word I would use,
Exactly.
you could continue that conversation using the words that they're comfortable with already. And the other point I would say is sometimes you need to not be in the space when you're having a conversation about it. You should be out for coffee or lunch, or maybe out for a walk, and maybe approach it in a more general way than a very direct, like, I can't believe you live this way type of conversation. And I would also say the other point of it is, you might be the friend or family member and you might be able to approach the subject, but that does not mean you're necessarily the best person to clean it or to help them, because it can be very emotionally charged, especially if there is trauma underneath. And so I think you have to be very aware that there are people who do organizing work. There are people that do junk removal. And just because you see the issue, it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy for you or that relationship to be the one that does the work. And I think you have to be very mindful of where you are personally. And for me, I finally figured out that other people's stuff is very triggering. It's very challenging, although it's easier to do it with someone else to help them than it is with someone that you're very personally connected to. So and it has a lot to do, I think, about clearing out your own mental space. And if you're dealing with any of these situations, journaling, meditation, take a walk, do some exercise, do something that is for you so that you can manage the situation that you're handling. And it's just, we can want better for people, but if they don't want it to, that just makes it harder. And there are times when you may have to just back off the cleaning, organizing, hoarding conversation completely if you want to have any kind of relationship with that person. But that doesn't mean you have to go sit on a stool in the hoard. Like, you could actively say, I'd be happy to visit you here, or it's fine if you come to my house, or whatever it is. But I think we get too caught up in over helping, I'll call it.
Yes. Yes, yes.
I've done it myself. And then you have to
Mm-hmm.
take a step back and say, okay, I need some boundaries. I need some limits. I need to detach a little bit. And I'm finding that detachment piece is really important in anything you're doing, and being a little less personally wounded if things don't go the way you think they should. Or
Exactly.
so
And I like the point that you brought out in reference to the individual may not feel, the word I'm hearing is worthy of being in a more suitable space, more cleaner space, and that plays a big thing too, because they may not want to move things around because they just don't think they deserve it. And that is a whole other emotional concept, emotional approach in regards to the things that we do unconsciously, or we don't unconsciously know right off the back, to why we might feel this way, or why we don't feel worthy enough to have a clean environment, or to whatever the reasons are. So there's so much more involved with that. So I'm loving this topic, and we can go on probably all day with this topic, but unfortunately we do have to move on. So what I would like to do for you, Tammy, if you're okay with it, I would like to pull a card for you to see what's in store for you as this energy, as the sun moves into Pisces and Venus moves into Aries. Are you open to that?
yes, I am.
All right. So for the sake of it, just say your full name that you go by, that people know you by, out loud 3 times for me.
Tammy Lynn Moses. Tammy Lynn Moses. Tammy Lynn Moses.
Excellent. All right. So with this amazing energy that we are literally moving into within hours from now, your word is communication. How you communicate with family members, and more importantly, how you serve, which is what you're doing right now, how you share your insight with your audience to get them to be in that space where they can, which is the heart chakra, high heart, be a more compassionate, kind approach to their family members or a friend if they happen to know who may be suffering with an issue of hoarding. So the communication that you are sharing, you're spot on with it. And I do believe that with this Venus Aries energy specifically is going to be a potent time for you. And what I mean by potent, I'm hearing you're going to get busy. You're going to be very busy during the season because of the connections you're having with people, the conversations, and more people are going to be interested in knowing what they can do to live in a cleaner space, not as cluttered. Maybe it might be family members wanting to help their family member with the issue. The 1-2, which is that 3 energy, which is about how you create, how you also listen. In the work that you do need to be a really good listener in regards to what the person that might be complaining about the other person, what they're saying, listening to that, and also listening to the person that has the issue. So I think that plays a huge role for you with this energy that's coming up. How does that sound for you?
Well, I think it's very accurate about listening with kindness, and I prefer the word kindness because I think you can be more direct under that. And that does not mean you have to be aggressive or hurtful, but I think you have to be willing to say, hey, I understand you're not maybe going to like what I'm going to say here, but here's what I see. And here's my concern. And focus on why you're raising the issue, not spending time telling them why they're bad. We hear enough of that already.
Exactly. Almost at a point where we're going to raise them up as opposed to beating them up for what they're doing. So rather than shaming them to why the situation is, just being in that space to support them and help them move into a different direction. So I love that. So please share again your contact information for those out there who are interested in working with you, may have questions, may want to refer you out to somebody who might need your services. So share that information with us.
So my website is thehoardingsolution.com, and you can also find me on social media under my name, Tammy Moses, as well as The Hoarding Solution. And I am recording podcast episodes around this issue as well, and that podcast is The Hoarding Solution Podcast. So I'm happy to connect with people, at the very least, to have a conversation around it, where I understand what it feels like to grow up with this. I understand what it's like to deal with elderly parents that have this issue, as well as managing combined space with my boyfriend. Like, you have to look at all those things, and it's important to recognize the role that you're playing in those situations. And I do think kindness and less judgment is the way to go. Even if judgment's required, it doesn't mean you have to be in a bad space around it. You can approach it in a kind way.
Excellent. I love that. And I just have two more things regarding your card. That's 3, which is associated with the Pisces energy, which is all about how you do help people tie up their loose ends so they can bring things into order. And also that connection that Venus has in Aries, where this is definitely going to be a very lucrative cycle for you. So if you have not yet evaluated your pricing in reference to what it is you do, this is a perfect time to do that, especially with the new moon that's coming in on the 20th. New moon is all about new ways of doing things, new intentions, new outcomes. So this is going to be a very lucrative and powerful time for you during this Venus Aries, Sun in Pisces. And then in addition to that, Saturn will also be moving into Pisces. So a lot of Pisces energy going on, but it's all good for you. So I'd like to thank you again for being here, sharing what it is you do. As this topic is not shared that often, we don't hear people talking about it, but it's time that people are, and I'm so glad you're the person to be doing it. So thank you so much again for being here with us. Until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back and share the conclusion of today's show. Again, Tammy, thank you. Tammy,
thank you so much. Are you ready for solutions and connections? If so, I can help. Hi, I'm Tammy Moses, and I help the peripheral people resolve hoarding issues in a holistic way. I would love to connect with you and learn more about how I can help in your unique situation. Please send me an email to thehoardingsolution@gmail.com. I look forward to connecting with you.
Hey, this is Joe Monkman, and I am a personal development trainer. And that means that I help people step into their leadership roles, take their place as a visionary, really understand their own mastery in the world so that they can really find their place at the buffet of life. And if you want to know more, you can find me on my Facebook page at Joe Monkman and joemonkman@gmail.com.
Ladies over 40, do you enjoy CrossFit, HIIT, interval training, Orange Theory, Zumba, or even yoga? I would like to help you incorporate 3 strength training workouts into that regimen. Yes, good old-fashioned strength training. I'm Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your certified holistic personal trainer, intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, the creator of the Chakra Balance Numerology Cosmic Energy Forecast deck, and the founder of Holistic Fitness, located right here in New York, Queens. To learn how you can redeem your self-growth discovery session, email healingwithin76@gmail.com and get started on that new 3-day strength training regimen in addition to what you enjoy. That email again is healingwithin76@gmail.com. Hello and welcome back to Joanne's Healing Within. If you are just tuning in right now, oh my goodness, you missed an amazing show, but you didn't miss it. You can always go back and you can watch on several of the platforms such as Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Twitch TV, or you can catch it on YouTube as well and Twitter, which is where we are right now. Anyhow, it was an amazing show. My amazing guest, Tammy Moses, who spoke with us about creating space for growth. And it's not a topic that gets spoken about a lot in reference to hoarding issues. I do believe we all have a little hoarding issue within each and every one of us. And going and listening to today's show, if you missed it, you're going to learn a lot. In any case, conclusion for today's show, all of my partners, or most of my partners, have some amazing promos going on. And I want to just mention those promos. If you're interested in connecting with any of them, there is a flyer for each. We have the Badass Color Mystic. She's got some amazing workshops coming up, so check her out. Spirit Messages and Energy Insight. Joe Monkman starts his new cycle all over again. I believe the next one starts up. Oh my goodness gracious, I don't even know the date, but it's on the flyer there. The Author's Porch podcast and magazine. If you are interested in getting your article, featured book, or whatever it is you do based on writing, you still have time. March 1st is the deadline. Get it in. Look at the flyer for the details. Intuition of the Soul. They just started the amazing Optimized Astrology course. First class took place. If you're interested in taking part in that, reach out. Then, of course, you have yours truly, Self-Growth Discovery Session. To discover who you are on a soul's level, go ahead and reach out to me. And last but not least, if you are a healer, entrepreneur, author, or anyone living in purpose and on purpose, and you're interested in sharing your journey and your story, and even perhaps your healing demonstrations, you have an opportunity right here. I'm accepting guest and partner opportunities. Email healingwithin76@gmail.com to learn more. Well, all that being said, today was an amazing show. Remember again, we have some amazing energy that is coming in on its way, just hours away. Sun entering Pisces, Venus entering Aries, beautiful conjunction between water and fire. What an amazing time. The new moon's on its way. Set those intentions, because when we think about Venus energy, it is about the relationship we have with ourselves, others, and our money. So set the intentions to what and how you like to attract money. Receiving, receiving, receiving. Till next time, I'll be back in 2 weeks from today, which I believe is March 5th. And don't know who the guest will be just yet, but come find out on March 5th. Till then, have an amazing day. Bye-bye for now.